The chipped ceramic mug warmed Ethan Hayes's palms, a small comfort against the chill that had become his constant companion. Not the December air, though that bit at the windows of the too-quiet house, but an internal frost, one that had settled in his marrow the day Sophia had re-entered the workforce, and, in doing so, meticulously begun to dismantle their life. He stared into the murky depths of his coffee, the reflection a stranger's face, gaunt, eyes hollowed by sleeplessness and a gnawing dread. I know you've heard it countless times. The cliché. I thought my life was perfect until that one day. That was me, Ethan Hayes. 6 years ago, I'd have described my life as a well-engineered structure. Solid foundations, elegant design, built to last. Sophia, my wife, brilliant, beautiful Sophia, was the heart of it, the architect of our shared joy. We'd met in college, a whirlwind romance that felt predestined. Her, a junior with eyes that could dissect legal briefs and melt hearts with equal ease. Me, a senior engineering student, more comfortable with blueprints than banter. Yet she'd made me feel like the most eloquent man alive. Marriage followed her graduation, swift and sure. My degree landed me a secure, well-paying position at a national engineering firm. Sophia, with her sharp intellect, became a legal assistant, her ambition a quiet hum beneath the surface of our domestic contentment. Then Lila arrived, our daughter, a miniature supernova of laughter and light. Sophia, without a moment's hesitation, traded her legal pads for lullabies, embracing full-time motherhood. Those were the golden years, untarnished, unmarred. Life wasn't just good, it felt complete. The first hairline crack appeared when Lila, all bright eyes and brand new backpack, started kindergarten. Sophia announced her decision to return to her old law firm, Price, Carter and Associates. "It's time, Ethan," she'd said, a new, almost brittle energy about her. "Lila's in school most of the day. I need more. For myself. And it'll be good for us, financially." In hindsight, the warning signs weren't just there. They were practically neon, pulsing with a lurid glow I was too willfully blind to acknowledge. I loved Sophia with a devotion that bordered on the reverent. The thought that she didn't reciprocate that depth, that intensity, was a sacrilege I couldn't entertain. But the evidence mounted, each piece a small, sharp stone in the foundation of my denial. Her wardrobe underwent a metamorphosis. The comfortable, stylish mom wear was gradually replaced by outfits that were assertive. Shorter hemlines, more form-fitting silhouettes, fabrics that whispered against her skin. Provocative, I suppose, though I'd initially dismissed it as her reclaiming a professional identity. Our closeness, once a vibrant, essential current in our marriage, dwindled to a trickle, then dried up completely. Her excuses were always plausible, always tinged with the fatigue of a demanding job. "Long day, Ethan?" "Early start." "Just too tired." The hours she spent at the office stretched, becoming elastic and unpredictable. "Working late with one of the senior partners, Nathan Price," she'd explain, a touch of impatience in her voice if I pressed. "It's a huge opportunity, Ethan. This could set us up for years. It's for our future." The phrase, "our future," became a mantra, a shield against my growing unease. My concerns about the shrinking slivers of time she spent with Lila, with me, were brushed aside with that same justification. I met Nathan Price at the firm's Christmas party a few months before the world imploded. The man oozed a manufactured charm that barely concealed an undercurrent of arrogance. He was shorter than me, impeccably dressed with a carnivory stillness in his eyes. He greeted me with a perfunctory handshake, his gaze sliding over me as if I were an uninteresting piece of furniture. I watched them, Sophia and him, throughout the evening, a knot of unease tightening in my gut. There were no overt displays, no stolen touches or lingering glances. They were professionals, masters of concealment. But the air around them crackled with an unspoken current, a shared secret that excluded me entirely. It was there, a tangible, suffocating presence. I just couldn't or wouldn't give it a name. The dam finally broke as Lila's kindergarten year drew to a close. She was scheduled to spend the weekend with my parents, a welcome tradition that usually gave Sophia and me a chance to reconnect, to rediscover the ooze that was slowly being eroded. I'd been counting the days, planning a quiet weekend, a home-cooked meal, a bottle of good wine, a movie, maybe even a chance to reignite the embers of our physical relationship. After dropping a chattering, excited Lila at my parents', I drove home, a nervous anticipation thrumming in my chest. I walked into the kitchen, my mind already on searing the scallops, and saw Sophia descending the main staircase. She was a vision, a short, midnight blue dress that clung to her curves, heels that made her legs look impossibly long, her dark hair styled in soft, artful curls that framed a face made flawless by meticulous makeup. It wasn't a look for a quiet night in. "Wow, babe," I managed, genuinely stunned, a foolish grin spreading across my face. "You look incredible. I wish you'd told me we were going out. I would have rushed home. Give me 20 minutes. I'll jump in the shower." "Where are we headed?" She paused on the bottom step, one hand resting lightly on the newel post. A smirk, cold and utterly alien, twisted her lips. It was an expression I'd never seen on her face, and it sent a sliver of ice down my spine. "We're not going anywhere, Ethan," she said, her voice smooth, devoid of warmth. "I'm going out, but not with you." The air punched out of my lungs. I froze, the grocery bag slipping from my numb fingers, oranges and an onion thudding onto the polished hardwood floor. What are you saying?" The words felt thick, clumsy on my tongue. "I have a date," she stated, as casually as if she were announcing she'd bought new shoes. She tilted her head, a glint of something unreadable in her eyes. "And this is just the beginning. Starting today, Ethan, we're going to have new rules." "My boss is picking me up. I won't be home tonight. I've booked a room downtown." Her words were individual hammer blows, each one driving me further into a state of stunned disbelief. "What the hell are you talking about?" My voice, when it finally came, was raw, incredulous. "A date? New rules?" "You need to calm down and accept it," she said, her tone chillingly matter-of-fact. "This is how it's going to be. I'll be home sometime Sunday." "Like hell you will," I exploded, the shockwave finally hitting, unleashing a torrent of rage. "If you walk out that door, Sophia, don't even think about coming back." She didn't flinch. Her composure was terrifying. "No, Ethan, I will be coming back. This is our home, and we're staying married. I'll live here, and so will you." She took a step closer, her perfume, a new expensive scent I didn't recognize, enveloping me. "You need to understand something. I do still love you, in my own way. But I need more. More than you can give me. If you make this difficult, Ethan, if you try to fight this, you're the one who won't be living here anymore. And believe me," her voice dropped, a silken threat, "you don't want to end up penniless, professionally ruined, and in jail. It wouldn't be good for Lila to lose her father, would it? Think about her." Lila. The name was a spear through my heart. Her words, precise and cruel, were designed to paralyze, and they succeeded. I stood there, shaking, a maelstrom of fury, betrayal, and a terrifying impotence churning within me. Just as I was about to unleash another tirade to physically bar her way, the doorbell chimed. Its cheerful, innocuous sound was a grotesque counterpoint to the implosion of my world. Sophia, with a final dismissive glance at me, turned and glided towards the door. She opened it to reveal Nathan Price, looking smug and impeccably tailored. "How did he take it?" Price asked her, his voice carrying clearly into the hallway where I stood, rooted to the spot. Sophia's reply was cool, almost bored. "Not well. I think you need to explain the consequences of non-compliance, Nathan." Price stepped into our home, my home, his eyes, reptilian and assessing, flicking towards me. He wasn't a physically imposing man, roughly my height, perhaps a fraction shorter, but he radiated an aura of absolute, unshakable power. "Mr. Hayes," he began, his tone smooth, condescending. "I believe we need to have a conversation." "Conversation?" I spat, my hands clenching into fists. Adrenaline surged, hot and bitter. "What I need is to throw you out of my goddamn house." A smirk played on Price's lips. "You're welcome to try. From the looks of you, you might even get a few good hits in." Before my driver, who is patiently waiting on your porch, steps in and puts a rather decisive end to it. By the end of the evening, you'd be in a jail cell, nursing a concussion and facing attack charges. So why don't you be a sensible fellow, sit down and listen instead? My gaze flickered towards the open doorway. A large, formidable man stood just outside, his presence a silent, potent threat. He was built like a brick outhouse, impassive, professional. The fight drained out of me, replaced by a cold, sickening understanding of my predicament. I muttered a curse under my breath and reluctantly sank onto the edge of the sofa in the living room, the plush fabric feeling like a bed of nails. "Good," Price said, his tone dripping with smug satisfaction. He remained standing, towering over me in a way that had nothing to do with physical height. "Now we can have a civilized discussion. When your wife, Sophia, agreed to become my personal assistant, she took on additional responsibilities." These responsibilities, Mr. Hayes, include meeting my personal intimate needs. Yes, I'm referring to a sexual relationship. We've been involved for the past 6 months. Sophia, however, has grown rather tired of the sneaking around, the subterfuge. He paused, letting the words hang in the air, each one a fresh wound. So, here's how things are going to work moving forward. You and Sophia will remain married. Your role as husband and father will remain largely unchanged, at least publicly. Except for one rather significant aspect. I will be the one meeting Sophia's intimate needs. Most of the time, this will occur at the office or in a discreet hotel. However, on occasions when you're not home or when it suits us, we may utilize your marital bedroom. A guttural sound, half rage, half despair, tore from my throat. I surged to my feet. This is outrageous. I will not accept this. I'll divorce her. I'll expose you both for the cheating, conniving. Mr. Hayes, Price interrupted smoothly, his voice a silken menace, calm yet utterly chilling. That kind of talk is not productive. You seem to be forgetting what business I'm in. I am a senior partner at this city's most prestigious and, frankly, most ruthless law firm. I have considerable influence. Judges, prosecutors, police commissioners, they take my calls. If you pursue a divorce, you will face consequences that extend far beyond the courtroom. He took a step closer, his eyes like chips of ice. Of course, during any divorce proceedings, we'll financially eviscerate you. You'll lose this house, your savings, every asset you possess. You'll be saddled with alimony payments, all while Sophia continues her relationship with me, comfortably ensconced. But that, Mr. Hayes, is merely the beginning. That precious little daughter you adore, Lila? You won't see her again. I will personally ensure you are accused of child misconduct. The charges will be fabricated, of course, but they will be convincing. They will ruin you. You'll serve time in prison, a very unpleasant experience for men accused of such crimes, I'm told. And even after you're released, a broken man, you'll never have visitation rights. Your employer, a reputable firm, will terminate you immediately upon arrest. Your reputation will be utterly destroyed. Your family, your friends, they'll abandon you. You'll be a pariah left with absolutely nothing. No money, no career, no daughter, no dignity. I sank back onto the sofa, my body trembling, my mind reeling. The sheer, calculated cruelty of his threats was breathtaking. He had mapped out the destruction of my life with the detached precision of a military strategist. Price leaned forward, his face uncomfortably close, his breath smelling faintly of expensive scotch and mint. Now, I trust you won't do anything foolish. If you tell my wife, if you tell anyone at my firm other than those already aware, if you breathe a word of this arrangement to anyone, you'll face everything I just described, plus a rather more physical visit from my driver and his associates. And if you think you can simply pack a bag and leave town, disappear, we will track you down. We have resources you cannot begin to imagine. He straightened up, adjusting his tie. So, be a good man, Mr. Hayes. Accept this new dynamic. Your wife is an exceptional assistant, he added, his voice dripping with a malice so profound it was almost tangible. Then he leaned down again, his lips almost brushing my ear, and whispered, "And she gives the most incredible heads. Truly world-class." I was too stunned, too shattered to react. Sophia, who had been watching this exchange with a chilling detachment, picked up her clutch bag from the hall table. She walked out the door with Nathan Price, her boss, her lover. My entire world, the life I had so carefully built, had not just been shattered, it had been systematically, brutally annihilated. I didn't know what to do. My mind was a maelstrom of disbelief, rage, and a soul-crushing despair. So I turned to the only escape I could think of, the bourbon bottle in the liquor cabinet. I drank until the room spun, until the sharp edges of reality blurred into a merciful oblivion. Waking up on Saturday morning was like surfacing from a drowning. My head throbbed, my mouth tasted like an ashtray, and the full weight of the previous night's horror came crashing down on me. Alone, hungover, filled with a dread so profound it felt like a physical entity coiling in my stomach. Sophia didn't come home that day. She wasn't there Sunday morning either. Later that Sunday, driving to my parents to pick up Lila, it took every ounce of my willpower not to break down. Her innocent, trusting face, her excited chatter about her weekend, was a fresh stab of pain with every mile. As we drove home, she looked at me, her small brow furrowed with concern. "Daddy, where's Mommy?" The words I wanted to scream, "Mommy's become a monster, darling. She's betrayed us both," burned in my throat. I forced a grotesque caricature of a smile. Mommy, Mommy had to work, sweetie, I choked out. The disappointment that clouded her bright, innocent eyes was a dagger twisting in my heart. It was all I could do to hold myself together, to not let the torrent of my grief and rage spill out and terrify her. When Sophia finally returned home late Sunday night, she found me in the guest room feigning sleep. The thought of her sliding into our bed, her body still carrying the scent of another man, was unbearable. Fortunately, she didn't try the door. I wasn't sure I could have remained composed. The next morning, a grim charade of normalcy began. I was up early, helping Lila get ready for her summer day camp. When Sophia appeared, dressed for work, her expression was unreadable. She said little to me, focusing all her attention on Lila, showering her with kisses and affection that felt, to me, utterly false. As we were heading out the door, Sophia kissed Lila goodbye, and then incredibly moved as if to kiss me. I flinched, turning my head away sharply, and walked out without a word, Lila's small hand clutching mine. That evening, after Sophia had put Lila to bed, she stormed down into the basement. I'd retreated there to my makeshift man cave, a sanctuary of old tools, fishing gear, and the lingering scent of sawdust and solitude. Are we going to have a problem, Ethan? She asked sharply, her hands on her hips, the picture of righteous indignation. My voice was cold, flat. When you say we, Sophia, are you referring to me having an issue with you spending the weekend shacked up with your boss? Is that the problem, you mean? She sighed, a theatrical display of exasperation. Look, I didn't plan for this to happen, Ethan, she said, her tone defensive. It just evolved. It started innocently enough, Nathan and I sharing morning coffee. He really liked that special French vanilla creamer I bring to work. The one you always complained was too sweet. A bitter laugh escaped me. I'm sure he was eager to share some of his own special creamer with you. Don't be crude, Ethan, she snapped, her eyes flashing. Nathan is a very persuasive man, and charming. You know how I've always said I don't like sushi? Thought it was disgusting? I nodded numbly. The truth is, I'd never actually tried it. Nathan convinced me, said it was an incredible aphrodisiac. The first time I tried it, that was also the first time he and I were intimate. She looked away, a flicker of something, shame, regret, crossing her face, but it was gone as quickly as it appeared. I'm sorry, Ethan, she continued, but her voice lacked any genuine remorse. But it was good. He promised me a promotion, to be his personal assistant officially. Think about the benefits. The salary increase is substantial. I'll get to travel with him, meet influential people. This arrangement, Ethan, it will be good for us in the long run. She paused, then added as if it were a minor, almost generous concession. Oh, and Nathan even said, he said you could be intimate with me again. Under certain conditions, of course. A wave of nausea washed over me. Oh, God, I can't wait to hear this, I said, my voice dripping with a sarcasm so thick it was almost a physical substance. You can only have sex with me after Nathan has been with me, Sophia said, her tone almost apologetic, as if she were explaining a slightly inconvenient house rule. He insists it has to be after he's left his mark, so to speak. And according to him, a faint, almost proud smile touched her lips, that's going to happen often. Wow, I breathed, the rage a white-hot inferno inside me. So, the great Nathan Price is graciously allowing me the privilege of sloppy seconds with his willing participant. How incredibly generous of him. How ducking magnanimous. You can't talk to me like that, Ethan, Sophia snapped, her face hardening. You need to get on board with this. It's not permanent. 2 or 3 years at most. He has a timeline for certain career moves. Afterwards, we'll be in an excellent financial position for our future together, for Lila. You actually believe this delusional nonsense, don't you? I said, incredulous. In your twisted little world, once the great Nathan is finished with you, tired of his new toy, I'm just supposed to pick up the pieces, welcome you back with open arms, and we grow old together, is that it? What happens when your precious Nathan decides he wants to put a baby in you, Sophia? Expects me to raise it as my own? Her eyes dropped. She couldn't meet my gaze. A cold dread, sharp and sickening, pierced through the anger. Oh no, I whispered, the words catching in my throat. You're not already pregnant, are you? No, she said quickly, perhaps too quickly. No, but he has mentioned wanting me to stop taking the pill in a few months. I told him I wanted you to be on board with the new arrangement before we took that step. I stared at her. The woman I had loved, the mother of my child, Now a stranger spewing obscenities that masqueraded as a plan for our future. I can't believe this, I said, my voice barely a whisper. Get out! Get out of my sight! Sophia paused at the top of the basement stairs, turning back. Her silhouette was framed by the light from the kitchen. I'll be in our bed, Ethan. Waiting. Once I stop taking the pill, well, I won't be available to you again until, you know. This was too much. She had to understand. They had to understand. I would never ever go along with this twisted, degrading charade. I officially moved into the guest room that night, my belongings migrating to the basement, my sanctuary, my prison. For Lila's sake, I maintained a fragile veneer of civility, a carefully constructed illusion of normalcy when she was around. But inside, a storm was gathering. Over the next week, fueled by a desperate cold fury, I began researching Nathan Price. His claims of power and influence were, disturbingly, not exaggerated. His connections ran deep, woven into the fabric of the city's legal and political elite. His reputation for ruthlessness was legendary. I sought out a divorce lawyer, a highly recommended specialist in contentious cases. Her assessment was grim, echoing Price's threats with chilling accuracy. Pursuing a divorce would not just ruin me financially, it would almost certainly cost me Lila. She was familiar with Nathan Price, his tactics, his reach. She believed, without hesitation, that he wouldn't scruple to fabricate allegations of child misconduct. Divorce, she stated bluntly, wasn't a viable option. It was a capital punishment for my relationship with my daughter and likely my freedom. The lawyer did, however, offer one sliver of hope, a desperate long shot. Gather evidence, she advised. Hard evidence. If you can record a conversation where they explicitly discuss their intentions, their threats, their plot against you, it might serve as leverage. It might give us something to fight with. She cautioned, though, that even with irrefutable evidence, going up against someone like Nathan Price would be an uphill, brutal battle. As part of her advice, she recommended a discreet, voice-activated recorder. Hide it in her purse, her briefcase, something she carries regularly. Taking her suggestion, I purchased a high-quality miniature recorder ingeniously designed to look like an ordinary pen. Under the cover of darkness, my heart hammering against my ribs, I slipped it into a small, cluttered pocket in Sophia's expensive leather handbag, nestled amongst other pens and lipsticks. It felt like a pathetically inadequate weapon against the arsenal Price commanded, but it was all I had. Days turned into weeks, each one a fresh torment. The pen recorder yielded nothing useful initially, just muffled office chatter, discussions about dinner plans, Sophia humming along to the radio. The legal avenues seemed firmly closed. My desperation grew, metastasizing into a cold, hard resolve. If the law couldn't protect me, couldn't deliver justice, then I would have to seek it elsewhere. To avoid leaving a digital trail, I began using the public computers at the downtown library, cloaked in an old baseball cap and sunglasses, my paranoia a constant companion. Investigators I knew from crime shows and a grim new fascination with true crime podcasts always checked a suspect's internet history. I couldn't risk it. Hours were spent navigating the murky corners of the internet, searching for solutions. Extreme solutions. My search eventually led me to a series of encrypted forums, clandestine marketplaces on the dark web. It was a terrifying, alien world, but desperation is a powerful motivator. After days of careful coded inquiries, I made contact with a seller, anonymous, untraceable, who specialized in exotic biochemical compounds. The transaction was to be conducted entirely in cryptocurrency, the delivery meticulously arranged through a series of dead drops. The substances I sought were tetrodotoxin and dimethylmercury, lethal, elusive. Tetrodotoxin, derived from the fugu fish, a delicacy when prepared by master chefs, a deadly neurotoxin otherwise. Dimethylmercury, an organomercury compound so virulently toxic that a mere drop absorbed through the skin could prove fatal after a horrifying latency period. Both were slow-acting in the diluted, carefully calibrated doses I planned. Their effects insidious, cumulative, designed to mimic a severe, untraceable illness, perhaps complications from contaminated seafood. Bad sushi, for instance. The brilliance, the poetic justice of my plan lay in its delivery system. Sophia herself. Her special French vanilla creamer. Months ago, I'd idly asked why she didn't just keep a stock at the office. "Oh, it's too good," she'd laughed, a brittle sound. "My little indulgence. I don't want anyone else helping themselves." Now I understood. It wasn't just her indulgence. It was something she shared exclusively with Nathan Price, a private ritual. The creamer, non-dairy and shelf-stable, was stored in cases in our pantry. That would be my point of entry. The current case sat open, 11 small, innocent-looking plastic bottles neatly arranged. I took one out, my hands surprisingly steady. The cap wasn't tamper-proof in the traditional sense, but it had a foil paper seal beneath it. I started with the tetrodotoxin, practicing the technique. The dimethylmercury was far more dangerous to handle. Even minute skin contact could be a capital punishment for me. I donned a pair of heavy-duty nitrile gloves, a laboratory-grade respirator mask I'd ordered online, and safety goggles. My basement workshop became a makeshift, sterile lab. Filling a fine-gauge hypodermic syringe, I carefully pierced the edge of the paper foil seal of a creamer bottle, angling the needle to enter the liquid beneath. Slowly, meticulously, I injected the precise measured dose of tetrodotoxin, ensuring the entry point was virtually invisible. I withdrew the needle, heart pounding. The bottle looked untouched. Perfect. Reassured by the success with the first toxin, I repeated the process with the remaining 10 bottles. Then, with even greater caution, my breath held tight in my chest, I prepared the dimethylmercury. Each bottle received its second, equally minute, equally lethal injection. 11 bottles meticulously prepared, silently waiting. I cleaned my tools with bleach, incinerated the gloves and packaging in a small metal bin in the backyard, scattering the ashes. No trace. 2 agonizing weeks later, I noticed the first bottle missing from the case in the pantry. 10 remained. A wave of something akin to nausea, a cold sweat washed over me. My conscience, a long-dormant entity, began to stir, whispering insidious doubts. Had I gone too far? Was there another way? Sophia's actions quickly, brutally silenced those whispers. That Thursday night, the ritual she and Price apparently referred to as sushi night took place. This was the night they supposedly worked late and shared their beloved sushi, a euphemism I now knew for their sordid trysts. Lila and I had our usual quiet dinner. I tucked her into bed, read her a story. Her innocent warmth a stark contrast to the chilling darkness that had enveloped my life. Then I retreated to the basement. Sophia entered a while later, an air of smug entitlement preceding her. "If you want any Zex, Ethan," she declared, her voice echoing slightly in the stark space, "you've got about 1 month. Nathan has decided I'm going off the pill in 4 weeks. After that, well, consider your access permanently revoked." Anger, cold and sharp, surged through me. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "You're offering me a brief 4-week window to sleep with my own wife before you actively start trying to conceive a child with your boss. How generous." I bit out the words through clenched teeth. "And wasn't the original rule that I couldn't touch you unless you were already carrying his filth inside you?" She smirked, unfazed by my venom. "That's right. And don't use that word. I've told you I hate it when you're crude." "Then I'll pass," I snapped. "I wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole, whether his contribution is involved or not." "Suit yourself," she said, her voice dripping with smug indifference. "More for Nathan, I suppose. I'll be upstairs, in our bed. It's been a while since we've been intimate." She turned and walked away, her hips swaying with a self-satisfied air. As she ascended the stairs, I muttered under my breath, "You wouldn't recognize love, Sophia, if it bit you on your goddamn compromised day." Some might argue I was going too far. That divorce, however painful, should have been my only recourse. But the threats against me were not idle. The danger to Lila, the most precious person in my life, the imminent threat to my freedom, my very existence. These were not abstractions. My actions, however morally reprehensible, felt like an act of desperate self-preservation. A war I hadn't started, but one I was determined to finish. About a week later, the case of creamer in the pantry was down to 9 bottles. It took another month, a month of agonizing, nerve-shredding tension before the first subtle signs of the toxin's effects began to appear. I had been observing Sophia with a detached, clinical focus whenever she was home. Her complexion, always vibrant, seemed a shade paler. But it was her hands that first caught my serious attention. During dinner one evening, she kept flexing her fingers, wringing her hands, a frown creasing her brow. "Is everything okay, Sophia?" I asked, injecting a note of carefully calibrated concern into my voice. She looked up, surprised by my solicitousness. "I don't know," she replied, her tone uncertain. "My fingers, they feel numb, tingly, kind of like when your hand falls asleep after you've been lying on it, funny. It's been happening for about a week now, on and off, and I've been feeling a bit out of breath lately." More tired than usual. It's probably nothing, I said, keeping my tone light, dismissive. Stress, maybe? Anything at work causing you extra tension? Making you uncomfortable? Her expression shifted, a faint, almost imperceptible sneer touching her lips. No, there's nothing wrong at work, Ethan. Everything is going great, actually, better than ever. I'm sure it's just stress. 2 weeks later, the box of creamer was down to 8 bottles. They must be drinking a lot of coffee, I thought, a grim, internal humorlessness twisting in my gut. Sophia's symptoms, however, were no longer subtle. She began experiencing more pronounced body aches, a persistent nagging pain in her joints. The shortness of breath worsened, accompanied by a dry, hacking cough. Her skin had taken on a noticeably ashen, unhealthy tone. The evidence of her deteriorating condition was becoming harder to ignore, even for her. It was a Thursday evening, sushi night. Sophia came home earlier than usual, which caught me off guard. She looked drawn, exhausted. "What are you doing here, Sophia?" I asked, my tone heavy with a sarcasm I made no effort to conceal. "Isn't it sushi night? Did the aphrodisiac lose its charm?" "I'm not feeling great," she replied, her voice raspy. She sank onto the kitchen chair, her movements listless. And neither is Nathan, actually. We both felt off, decided not to work late tonight. "Well, that's poor timing, isn't it?" I said, the venom coating my words. "You know that big project you and Nathan were supposed to start? The one where you go off the pill? Hard to deliver that particular package if both of you are sick." Sophia's eyes flashed, but the anger seemed muted by her malaise. She stepped closer, lowering her voice so Lila, playing in the living room, couldn't hear. "Don't be an idiot, Ethan. Not in front of our daughter. I'm going to lie down after dinner. My head is pounding." Later, as I took Lila to her room to get her ready for bed, I walked past our master bedroom. The unmistakable, wretched sounds of Sophia vomiting violently echoed from the ensuite bathroom. I hesitated for a moment, a flicker of something, then pushed the door open. She was kneeling before the toilet, her body racked with spasms. "Please tell me you're not already pregnant," I said quietly, standing in the doorway. "Screw you, Ethan," she gasped between heaves, her voice weak but still laced with defiance. "There's no way I'm pregnant yet. I just went off the pill last week, for God's sake. You could show some compassion, you know. I'm really sick here." "Compassion?" I scoffed, the sound harsh in the sterile bathroom. "That's rich, Sophia, coming from you." "I'm your wife, Ethan," she cried, tears of pain and frustration streaming down her pale face. "You're supposed to care. You need to show your wife some respect, some compassion." I cut her off sharply, my voice like a razor. "No, my wife died months ago. The day she decided to sell herself out to that a-hole. She was replaced by this. Someone I have no respect for, someone I barely recognize. If you think you'll get any compassion, any respect, or even a shred of common human kindness from me, Sophia, you are profoundly mistaken." I turned and walked out of the bathroom, leaving her hunched over the toilet, her choked sobs following me. Down the hall, Sophia was still in bed when I left to take Lila to day camp on Friday morning. I didn't check on her. Honestly, I didn't care. Around noon, my phone rang. It was Sophia, her voice weak, laced with panic. "What do you want?" I answered, my tone flat. "Ethan, I need you to take me to the hospital," she rasped. "What's wrong now?" I asked, a flicker of detached curiosity. "I'm sick, Ethan, really sick, but it's not just me, it's Nathan. He's had a stroke. They called me from his office." He collapsed. I couldn't help it. A dry, humorless laugh escaped my lips. "Are you seriously asking me to take you to the hospital to see your lover who's just had a stroke? After everything?" "Please, Ethan, this isn't funny," she pleaded, her voice cracking. They said he could die." A cold calculation formed in my mind. It might raise suspicions if I refused, if I showed overt indifference to my ailing wife needing to see her gravely ill boss. So, I feigned reluctance, then agreed, taking the afternoon off work. When I got home, Sophia looked ghastly. Her skin was clammy, her eyes sunken. I helped her into the car, a strange, detached pity mixing with the icy contempt. The drive to the hospital was surreal. I found myself whistling softly, a tuneless, almost cheerful melody. Sophia, huddled in the passenger seat, shot me venomous glares, occasionally muttering curses under her breath. I ignored her. At the hospital, a chaotic scene greeted us in the ICU waiting area. We ran into Nathan Price's wife, a woman I'd only seen in photographs. Her face a mask of grief and bewilderment, surrounded by several grim-faced men in expensive suits, presumably partners from the firm. One of them, Derek Carter, a name I recognized from Sophia's occasional work anecdotes, quickly intercepted Sophia, his expression alarmed. "Sophia, what are you doing here?" he hissed, pulling her aside, clearly aware of the affair. "His wife is right over there. This is highly inappropriate." Ignoring the fact that I was standing right beside her, privy to every word, Sophia clutched Carter's arm, her eyes wide with panic. "Mr. Carter, Derek, I need to know how he is." "I need to see him, please." Carter, after a moment's hesitation and a nervous glance towards Mrs. Price, gestured for us to follow him to a more secluded corner. He kept me close, his eyes flicking between Sophia and me with a mixture of suspicion and concern. "You look awful, Sophia," he murmured, his professional veneer cracking. It's not looking good for Nathan. His entire left side is paralyzed. The doctors, they say his organs are shutting down. They don't know what's causing it, some kind of aggressive systemic failure. If they can't stop it, he won't make it through the weekend." Sophia burst into tears, great racking sobs. "Please, mister." "Carter, I have to see him just for a minute. Can you distract his wife while I go in?" "I'll be quick." Carter, looking increasingly uncomfortable, eventually nodded. He engaged Nathan's distraught wife and her entourage in a hushed conversation, creating a diversion. I, with a sense of grim, almost theatrical duty, escorted Sophia to Nathan Price's room. He looked like a broken doll. The left side of his face sagged grotesquely, saliva drooling from the corner of his slack mouth. An array of tubes and wires connected him to beeping, flashing machines. He was awake, his one good eye darting around the room with a terrified, uncomprehending expression. Sophia rushed to his side, oblivious to my presence by the door. I felt a wave of revulsion, so profound it was almost physical. Watching her take his unresponsive hand, tears streaming down her face as she whispered endearments, stroked his hair, kissed his cheek. The hypocrisy was staggering. Her emotional display intensified until a stern-faced nurse entered, firmly telling Sophia that visiting hours were restricted and she needed to leave. The nurse, with a practiced efficiency, helped a sobbing Sophia out of the room, leaving just Nathan and me. His one good eye widened in recognition as I stepped closer to the bed. He tried to speak, a garbled, gurgling sound escaping his lips. His hand twitched. I leaned down, my voice low, cold, and utterly devoid of emotion. "Nathan, you're going to die very soon. Before you do, I want you to know something. I didn't take your advice. I didn't accept your new relationship dynamic. And don't worry, I fully intend to tell your wife, your partners, everyone, exactly what you did with my wife. What you tried to do to me and my family once you're comfortably in the ground." I paused, letting my words sink in. "Just know, before you slip away into whatever oblivion awaits fools like you, that I did this to you. This illness? It's not random, and there's not a damn thing you can do to stop it now." A sudden cacophony of alarms erupted from the machines connected to him. His eye bulged, fixed on me with an expression of pure, unadulterated terror. Nurses and doctors rushed into the room, pushing me aside. I stepped out calmly, a glacial calm settling over me as the sounds of frantic medical intervention filled the corridor. They managed to keep him alive, barely, through the weekend. He passed away early Monday morning. Sophia was a wreck when she heard the news. Her own health, already precarious, continued its relentless decline. I picked up Lila from day camp that Monday afternoon and headed home to find Sophia still in bed, looking like a ghost. She confirmed, her voice a hoarse whisper, that her lover was gone. Despite her own rapidly deteriorating condition, her venom, her bitterness, was still very much in evidence. "I guess you're going to gloat now, aren't you, Ethan?" she said, her voice weak but laced with accusation. "No, Sophia," I replied, my voice flat, devoid of inflection. "I'm not going to gloat. But nor am I going to pretend I'm upset he's dead. That man, our boss, destroyed our marriage, our family. He deserves whatever hell he's found." "Our marriage isn't dead, Ethan," she whispered, tears welling in her sunken eyes. "I can't believe you're being so cruel, so callous about Nathan. Nothing I had with him. It never diminished my love for you." "Not really. I told you. It was a means to an end, a way to get ahead, to make us financially secure. You knew I would come back to you, to us." "No, Sophia," I said, my patience utterly exhausted. "You're talking nonsense. Delusional nonsense. Our marriage is as dead as your lover. Did you forget? Did you conveniently forget that I was in the room, standing right there, when you rushed to Nathan's bedside, professing your undying love for him, hugging him, kissing him, with your husband, the man you supposedly still loved, watching your every move? Sophia sobbed harder, turning her face to the wall. I turned and left the bedroom, the sound of her weeping a hollow, meaningless echo. By the end of that week, her condition had worsened dramatically. She was too weak to get out of bed, her breathing shallow, her skin a ghastly mottled gray. It got so bad that on Friday, I had no choice but to call an ambulance and have her taken to the same hospital where Nathan Price had died. Saturday morning, her attending physician, a Dr. Ramirez, met with me in a small, sterile consultation room. His expression was grave. "Mr. Hayes," he began, his voice gentle but firm, "I'm afraid I have some very bad news. Your wife's organs are shutting down, rapidly. Her blood work shows dangerously high levels of mercury and another, more exotic neurotoxin, consistent with certain types of marine life. Does she eat a lot of seafood? Perhaps sushi?" I fought to keep my expression neutral, a mask of concerned grief. "Yes, doctor. She and her boyfriend, Nathan Price, they've been eating a lot of sushi in the past few months. It was their thing." "Boyfriend?" Doctor Ramirez asked, his eyebrows arching in surprise. "Yes, I'm sure you're familiar with him, Nathan Price, the man who passed away here in your hospital just this past Monday. He and my wife, they were having an ongoing affair." Dr. Ramirez looked stunned for a moment, then a grim understanding dawned on his face. That explains a lot. Even though Mr. Price's primary event was classified as a stroke, his subsequent systemic collapse, the organ failure, her symptoms are remarkably tragically similar. Unfortunately, Mr. Hayes, your wife's condition is critical. Her kidneys failed completely earlier this morning. It's only a matter of time now. Hours, perhaps. The doctor led me to her room. Sophia was a pale shadow of her former self, hooked up to a terrifying array of machines, each one beeping and sighing with a grim rhythm. Her eyes, sunken and dull, flickered open as I entered. They brightened, just a fraction, and she weakly gestured for me to come closer. Her breathing was shallow, each inhale a visible, painful effort. She struggled to speak, her voice a mere whisper. She motioned again for me to lean in. I did, bringing my ear close to her lips. "Ethan, I'm so sorry," she rasped, a tear tracing a path down her emaciated cheek. I now understand how badly I hurt you, betrayed you." Her breath hitched. "The doctor, he told me. I don't have much time. I need to hear that you forgive me, Ethan. Please, before I go, I need your forgiveness." I leaned in even closer, my lips almost brushing her ear. She managed a faint, hopeful smile as I began to speak, my voice a soft, sibilant whisper, for her ears only. "My dear wife, Sophia, I pledged my undying love to you when we exchanged our vows. For better or for worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part." I said those words and I meant them. And you, Sophia, you pledged your love, your faithfulness to me. You broke those vows, you shattered them. You belittled me, humiliated me, threatened our child, our life together, all for what? A thrill? Ambition? You chose him, you chose this forgiveness? I paused, letting the word hang in the air between us. "No, Sophia, I will never forgive you. Not for what you did to me, not for what you did to Lila, not for what you did to our family. I hope you and your lover find each other in whatever hell awaits you. And I hope you both burn there for eternity." I stood up slowly, watching as that single tear, her last perhaps, slid down her cheek, her eyes widening in a final, horrified understanding. I turned and walked out of the room, my footsteps steady, resolute. Just as I reached the hallway, the alarms on her monitors began to shriek, a frantic, piercing chorus. Less than an hour later, Sophia Hayes was declared dead. Telling Lila that her mother wasn't coming home, that Mommy was now a star in the sky, was the single most heartbreaking, gut-wrenching moment of my entire existence. I cried for Lila, for her loss, for the innocence stolen from her. I did not cry for Sophia. She had tried to destroy my life, my very soul, but I had beaten her to it. I had engineered their demise with a cold, calculating precision that, in a strange, dark way, I found perversely satisfying. The official cause of passing for both Sophia and Nathan Price was listed as complications arising from severe food poisoning, likely from contaminated seafood, specifically improperly handled fugu or shellfish containing high levels of mercury and other marine biotoxins, bad sushi, a tragic, unfortunate coincidence. When Sophia's body was handed over to the funeral home, I was informed there would be no autopsy beyond the standard hospital post-mortem, no police investigation. No one came to question me. My story of their shared sushi habit, confirmed by Dr. Ramirez's notes, seemed to satisfy everyone. I meticulously destroyed the remaining bottles of creamer, carefully incinerating them along with the empty vials of toxins and all related paraphernalia in my backyard furnace. I even retrieved the nearly empty quarter-full bottle of her special creamer from Sophia's office desk when I went to clear out her personal belongings, replacing it with a fresh, untainted one from the grocery store before anyone noticed. Every trace, every shred of evidence was obliterated. When I had Sophia cremated, her parents, devout Catholics, objected vehemently. I didn't care. I wanted her body and any lingering secrets it might hold reduced to ash. With her ashes, any remote possibility of future discovery was gone forever. You'd think I would be satisfied, my revenge complete. But I wasn't quite done. The poison had dealt with the primary architects of my torment, but the rot went deeper. I had the pen recorder, its contents now invaluable. I made multiple encrypted backups. My first visit, a week after Sophia's funeral, was to Emma Price, Nathan's grieving widow. Why confront her now? I wanted to know if she had known. I suspected she had. Nathan had been too brazen, too arrogant for her not to have harbored suspicions, at the very least. When she surprisingly agreed to see me, inviting me into her palatial, grief-stricken home, I discreetly turned on a fresh voice recorder in my pocket. "Mrs. Price," I began, my tone somber, respectful. "I came here today to talk to you about your husband and my late wife, Sophia." She cut me off, her voice brittle, weary. "You can stop right there, Mr. Hayes. I knew. I knew about my husband and your wife. They weren't exactly subtle about it. It wasn't his first affair, Mr. Hayes, but she was, it seems, his last." Her eyes, red-rimmed but surprisingly steady, met mine. "I am sorry for your loss, truly. But as you can see, I lost my husband too. We are both sufferers here." "Thank you for your honesty, Mrs. Price," I said, my voice hardening slightly. "But I want to be very clear. You knew your husband was actively seducing my wife, turning her against me, against our daughter. And by doing nothing, by tacitly allowing it, you are, in my eyes, just as complicit as he was." "Wait just a minute, Mr. Hayes," she exclaimed, her composure finally cracking. "I had no part in my husband's indiscretions." "I was a sufferer of them, just as you were." "We'll have to agree to disagree on that, Mrs. Price," I said calmly. "If you had done something, anything, confronted him, exposed him, left him, maybe he wouldn't have felt so emboldened, so free to destroy another family. Maybe my daughter would still have her mother. The fact that you knew and chose silence will be very pertinent when I pursue legal action against his estate for the immense pain, suffering, and irreparable damage he caused my family." I got up and walked out of her opulent prison, leaving her, sputtering in indignation. My lawyer had advised that suing Nathan's estate would be a long, arduous, and likely unsuccessful battle. But at that point, it wasn't about the money. It was about retribution, about ensuring that every single person who had played a part in my nightmare paid a price. Along with targeting the Price estate, I set my sights squarely on the law firm, Price, Carter, and Associates. With Nathan dead, my lawyer initially believed the firm would circle the wagons, deny any knowledge or culpability, and fight us at every turn. That was until I produced the pen recorder, and specifically a chilling recording of a conversation that had taken place in Sophia's office weeks before her end. It captured Nathan, Sophia, and Derek Carter, the smarmy partner I'd encountered at the hospital, callously discussing my resistance to their arrangement. In the recording, Carter explicitly offered his assistance in enforcing compliance. He boasted of knowing cops, prosecutors, and judges who owed him favors, individuals they could leverage to destroy me, to fabricate charges, to ensure I was neutralized if I didn't fall in line. Although my lawyer cautioned that the recording's admissibility in court was questionable due to consent laws, we decided its value as a bargaining chip was immense. She arranged a meeting with the firm's senior partners, including Derek Carter. She didn't disclose the true reason for the meeting, merely implying it was related to settling Sophia's life insurance policy, which had predictably run into some bureaucratic hurdles. I wanted them off guard, complacent. When we entered the firm's opulent conference room, all 7 senior partners, including a visibly pale Derek Carter, were assembled. They each offered their practiced, insincere condolences on Sophia's passing. They genuinely believed we were there to discuss the insurance payout. Mark Holden, the managing partner, a man whose photograph I'd seen countless times in society pages, stood up, his expression one of magnanimous sympathy. "Mr. Hayes, on behalf of the entire firm, please accept our deepest sympathies for your profound loss. We were informed by HR of the difficulties you've been experiencing with the insurance company regarding Sophia's policy. I'm pleased to inform you that we've successfully intervened. We've managed to clear up any obstacles." He slid a check across the polished mahogany table towards me. It was for $600,000. I picked up the check, folded it neatly, and placed it in my jacket pocket. Then I looked up, meeting Holden's gaze directly. "Thank you, Mr. Holden. That's very generous, but that's not why we're here today." A ripple of unease went around the table. "We're here, gentlemen, to give your firm the opportunity to settle a rather more serious matter. Before we go public and file a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against each of you personally and against your esteemed law firm collectively." Holden's affable expression vanished, replaced by a thunderous scowl. "How dare you, sir?" he boomed, his face flushing. "How dare you come in here into our offices and accuse this firm of what, exactly? And in doing so, tarnish the reputation of a fallen, respected partner. Mr. Hayes, we will not sit here and tolerate these baseless, outrageous allegations." "Mr. Holden," I said, my voice calm, measured, a stark contrast to his bluster. "We can leave right now, if you wish. But I assure you my allegations, as you call them, are anything but baseless, and I have the evidence, irrefutable, damning evidence, to back them up. In fact," I paused, letting my gaze drift towards Derek Carter, who was now visibly squirming, his face ashen, "I suggest you simply ask Mr. Carter if I'm telling the truth." All eyes in the room swiveled to Carter. The silence was thick, suffocating. Everyone seemed to be waiting for his indignant denial, his furious refutation. He remained silent, his eyes darting nervously around the room, unable to meet anyone's gaze. My lawyer then discreetly pressed play on her phone, which was connected to a small, powerful Bluetooth speaker she'd placed on the table. The clear, unmistakable voices of Nathan Price, Sophia Hayes, and Derek Carter filled the stunned silence of the conference room, discussing their plan to destroy me. Carter's chilling offers of leveraging corrupt officials, the casual brutality of their intentions laid bare. Holden's face went from red to a mottled purple, then to a ghastly white. He shot a murderous glare at Carter, then quickly stood up, his composure shattered. He glanced at his equally stunned partners, then turned back to me and my lawyer, his voice hoarse. "Mr. Hayes, Ms. Albright, if you'll allow us, I need to speak with my partners, privately, immediately." 30 agonizing minutes later, Holden walked back into the conference room alone. His arrogance was gone, replaced by a weary, pragmatic resignation. What are your demands, Mr. Hayes?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your firm will pay me and my daughter, Lila Hayes, the sum of $5 million, I stated, my voice firm, unwavering. "That is our starting point for settlement. Or we proceed with the lawsuit. The recording I just played for you, along with several others equally damning, will be made public. They will be delivered to the press, to the Bar Association, to the district attorney's office." "It's as simple as that," my lawyer interjected smoothly. "Mr. Holden, my client isn't just seeking financial compensation. Mr. Carter's admissions on that recording will almost certainly lead to his disbarment. The rest of you, given your firm's apparent culture of aggressive tactics, could face similar scrutiny, perhaps even criminal charges for conspiracy. The fact that prosecutors and judges were named, even if only as potential assets, will severely damage your firm's reputation and could jeopardize every license in this room." Holden, looking like a man who had aged a decade in the last half hour, asked for 2 days to discuss our offer with his partners and their insurers. My lawyer was unequivocal. "You have 2 days to agree to our terms, not 1 minute more, or everything comes out." 2 days later, my lawyer called. Her voice was triumphant. "They've agreed, Ethan. $5 million. I have a proposed settlement agreement here. In exchange for the payment and our silence, they've also agreed to expel Mr. Carter from the firm immediately under a morals clause, which will deny him approximately 90% of his partnership share. And we've agreed not to pursue any further action against Mr. Price's estate. I agreed to the terms. I signed the non-disclosure agreement, promising never to publicly reveal the actions of Nathan Price, Derek Carter, or their firm against me and my family. The money, a vast sum, was wired into a trust account for Lila and myself. Sophia, in her twisted, deluded way, had been right about one thing. Her affair and its horrific, unforeseen consequences had indeed financially secured our future. Lila's future. After the deal with the law firm was finalized, the ink dry on the settlement, a strange, hollow calm descended. The financial strain was lifted, the immediate threats neutralized. I took a step back from the abyss that had consumed my life for so many agonizing months. My focus narrowed, sharpened, to the one pure, untainted thing left in my world. My daughter, Lila. The scars of betrayal, of the monstrous acts I had committed in the name of self-preservation and revenge, would likely never fully fade. They were etched into my soul, a permanent testament to the darkness that lurks beneath the veneer of civilized life. But this was a turning point. The weight of the past was still a heavy cloak, but it no longer threatened to suffocate me. I used the money from the settlement to create a new life for Lila, a life of stability, security, and as much joy as I could muster. We moved from the house that held too many ghosts, too many poisoned memories. We bought a smaller place, closer to a good school, with a big yard for her to play in. I took her on trips, simple ones at first, the zoo, the beach, amusement parks. Watching her laughter, her unbridled delight, slowly begin to mend the fractured pieces of my own spirit. We spent hours fishing on quiet lakes, hiking through sun-dappled forests, rediscovering the simple, uncomplicated pleasures I had neglected during the dark days. It was at a local park, watching Lila shriek with laughter on the swings, that I met Sarah. She was a therapist, her eyes kind, her smile genuine, radiating a warmth that I hadn't realized how desperately I missed. She had been through her own share of pain, her own losses, and had emerged not bitter, but stronger, more compassionate. She saw something in me, beyond the guarded exterior, beyond the shadows in my eyes. She didn't pry, didn't push, but offered a quiet, steady presence, a safe harbor in the lingering storm of my emotions. Our relationship blossomed slowly, cautiously. I found myself laughing again, a rusty, unfamiliar sound at first, then more freely, more genuinely. Sarah was understanding, patient. She knew, without me having to articulate the full, horrific truth, that I carried deep wounds. Lila, with a child's unerring instinct, took to Sarah immediately, sensing her kindness, her gentle strength, happy to see her father smile again. We became a tentative, fragile family unit. With Sarah by my side, the crushing loneliness that had been my constant companion began to recede. Peace was a foreign concept, perhaps unattainable in its purest form, but moments of contentment, of quiet happiness, began to surface. Not everything was lost. There was still a possibility of connection, of warmth, even after the profound darkness. Did I find forgiveness? Not for Sophia, not for Nathan. Their betrayal was absolute, their destruction of our life unforgivable. But perhaps, in time, I began to find a measure of forgiveness for myself, for the man I had become in response to their evil, for the desperate, brutal acts I had committed to survive, to protect my child. Holding on to the bitterness, the rage would only chain me to the past, a prisoner of my own making. The future I had once envisioned, the perfect, well-engineered life, was gone, obliterated. But from the ashes, something new was being built, something different, more complicated, more scarred, but perhaps in its own imperfect way, more real. And for Lila, seeing her father slowly, painstakingly piece himself back together, seeing him find a measure of calm, made all the difference. She would grow up knowing that even when life shatters, even when confronted with unimaginable darkness, it is possible to heal, to rebuild, to move forward, together. The labyrinth of emotions I had navigated was vast, terrifying. Love, betrayal, fear, incandescent rage, cold calculation, the grim satisfaction of devastating revenge, and finally a weary, scarred acceptance. I was Ethan Hayes, and I had survived. More than that, I had prevailed. The cost had been immense, but Lila was safe, and that in the end was all that truly mattered.